Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. I'm Matt, and today we are doing some field recording stuff. If you follow this channel, you may have seen a video a few months ago where I went out to film and record a band that is a couple friends of mine, and they were doing a live video to promote a record they had coming out, and it went really well. And it was kind of a new thing for me. It was a bigger project than something I had worked on before, both with video and audio, which is a lot of things happening at once, trying to get a lot of things right, trying to deliver a good product for my friends and for their band. Well, in the past few months, that same band has been writing a lot of new material. They contacted me to help them do the recording and the tracking for a new album they're working on. They're recording something, they have a lot of stuff to record, and they contacted me to do it, so I want to do a good job. So today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to build out a little temporary recording rig. I live in a little studio apartment. Pretty much everything you see here is almost the entire apartment. It is one little room. It is on the 4th floor of a building. I can't have a band come here to record. I have gear to make that happen, but I do not have the space to do it. It would also be a horrific thing to do as a neighbor, to have a metal band come to my 4th floor walk-up apartment and bash out a bunch of metal songs for a weekend. Naturally, I am going out to them. They have a rehearsal space that we've done some stuff in before, but they have some friends who have another larger rehearsal space that we're going to use to track the album. And we are going to use that space to be able to spread out, get some separation between the instruments, get a plan going, be able to record the live aspects of the recording for a weekend while we have the space and the ability to kind of move around in this larger room. For the bulk of the weekend, what's going to be happening is they have a drummer, a bass player, 2 guitar players. There's also a singer. He's just not going to be doing tracking until after all the instrument stuff is put down. The drummer and the instrumentalists are all going to be recording together. We'll do some overdubs on top of it after the fact. The primary tracking of the album will be done live. It's just a better vibe. It's how they've been practicing. That's the way we're going to do it. The thing with that, though, is that we want to mic everything. We are going to be putting full close mics on all the drums, 2 overheads, kick, snare, under snare, 3 toms. A few weeks ago, I met up with them. We did some demos just to kind of test out mic techniques, make sure we can, get things working the way we want to. We've had a few changes in the meantime. The way that we're doing things is I have an 8-input PreSonus audio interface. This allows me to put 8 microphones sent into the computer. The issue is that's just drums for this project. We have 8 microphones just for drums. So for everyone to record live, we need more inputs. So we have been playing around with a couple different options. We had a cheap ADAT expander that we used for the demos. It was a cheap Behringer, I couldn't tell you the name of it, I can't remember the product name exactly, but it was a cheaper Behringer unit, and we just found that we were getting some really thin tones out of it. We just weren't happy with how it sounded in the project. That ran us into a new roadblock, which was, what are we going to do about that? I mean, how do we expand it? We don't have the budget to go buy a bunch of new converters or new ADAT expansion units. This is a pretty low budget operation. Between me and them, we have enough gear to make a good sounding record. It's just a matter of kind of finessing that gear, making it work, putting it together, being creative and being resourceful and being able to come up with solutions to our problems. So, I'll show you what we're doing. This heavy monster, it is a standalone interface. It is also an interface for recording. It is not an ADAT expansion unit. It's a Focusrite Sapphire Pro 40, and it is another interface. It's FireWire, which my computer does not have. So assuming my Amazon delivery is on time, I will be able to connect to this. We did some research, and it turns out that you can go into the software for this unit, and as long as you can connect it to the computer, which I need an adapter to do, so, thanks Apple. There is a way to change this to a standalone mode. So we will be able to use this as an ADAT expansion for my PreSonus interface. What that means is that there is some ADAT in and outs on the back of this interface. And you can tell it to, instead of acting as an interface, to just act as a pass-through unit so that it takes mic 1 is actually being routed, rather than going to the computer, is routing it to ADAT output 1. And those ADAT outputs will go into the ADAT inputs of my PreSonus interface, thereby turning inputs 1 through 8 on this to inputs 9 through 16 as the computer sees them. And if not, we always have the Behringer to fall back on, but you know, we just don't love the sound of it. We did a lot of trial and error. It just wasn't working the way we wanted it to, but that's okay. You know, it is what it is. You find solutions. Luckily, somebody had this available, so we're able to expand our inputs. And that's really exciting because we don't have to go buy a bunch of gear. More gear costs more money. You know, you have to make do with what you have. You have to get creative. And I mean, it's art. So yeah, of course you got to get creative. It's fun. So there's some new challenges. I have a little rack box that I'm going to start putting stuff in. So I'll take you along for me kind of putting the rack together. I'll show you how I'm wiring it and what I'm doing for that. But before that, I got one other piece of gear for this project that is just a piece of plastic. The other week, as we were doing the demos, we started to kind of think about what is the point of recording demos before going in to the actual recording process. I think that's different for everyone involved. For the band, the point is to get some practice playing the songs, figure out their tempos, figure out when they listen back, is that how we want this song to sound? Are there parts we need to change in the coming weeks to kind of prepare for the actual recording process? What are the things that they need to work on as performers? Things like that. They have their own set of takeaways that they need to get from the demo process. The singer, he's still working out some lyrics. He's still figuring out also for himself what the tempos are and how that fits with the lyrics he's writing, if the groove sits right for lyrics to go here or there, things like that. He has his own set of goals and takeaways that he needs from the demo process. Myself as the engineer, the person recording, the main takeaways that I need for the demo process, you know, for me it's about the technical aspect. What are the technical things that I want to be absolutely prepared for? What are the problems we run into in a kind of trial run so that when we get there on the day, we're ready to go? One of them was the 8-add expansion and using another unit to increase the inputs to the computer. That was a really big thing for me because that's new for me. I've never gone beyond 8 inputs. One, hoping my computer can handle it, as well as just being able to monitor all that, getting my gain staging right, getting everything looking and sounding okay going into the computer. But another issue we ran into was tone, guitar tones. They have a bunch of big Marshall amps. Between all of them, they have a ton of different kinds of amps, different heads, different pedals, different guitars, a lot of different tonal options. As we were recording in, we really weren't getting guitar tones that we were happy with. And we were putting a 57 in front of a Marshall amp. You know, like that's a classic guitar tone. Why didn't that work? Or why was it giving us trouble? It took us a lot of kind of finessing and moving things around and trying different stuff to get the right tone. In an effort to kind of get another option, I looked online and I found these Wilkinson Fredman guitar mic clips. Now what this does is this just holds two SM57s at an angle. So it just lets you clip two of them together, and through the research that I've done, through other videos I've watched, through people talking about how they get good heavy metal guitar tones, the Fredman technique came up again and again. And so I got two of these clips, one for each guitar player. We have enough 57s to do the job. We're double micing our guitars. We have the inputs to do it. I hope that goes well. That's my other, preparation. These things are pretty cool. They seem to be 3D printed little guys. They came within a week and a half from Canada. I'm pretty excited about them. I haven't had a chance to try them because I only have one 57 here. The guys in the band have a lot of other 57s, so we'll get the real test run Friday night of what that tone's gonna be like. The point of this is that it gives you one on-axis microphone pointed at the cab, and then you have one that's off-axis a little bit. When you blend them together, you get a much bigger guitar tone, and it kind of eliminates a little bit of that hissiness that you get in some big distorted guitars. So you're able to get the body and the clarity, and you blend them together after the fact, and that helps you get the heavy metal big guitar tone. So I got some new gear. We got the 8-at thing in preparation. This is still a prep day, but tomorrow things get real. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna build out this little mobile unit. Also, I know I haven't posted videos in a couple weeks. I started interning at a recording studio here in Philadelphia, and I'll give you more information on that as time goes on. I've been sitting in on some sessions, been helping out with some recording, been learning a lot about tracking and mixing and mastering from these guys. So there's some big stuff coming up for me. And hopefully for this channel as well. It'll help things grow, but I apologize for the lack of consistency on this channel the last couple weeks. I have been busy, and I promise that the things I've been doing will be coming back to enhance this channel and the content that I'm putting out. All right, let's build a rack unit. All right, so here is our empty rack unit. It is just a 4-rack homemade little box. A while back, I just bought some wood and some rack rails because buying a box like this costs way too much online, so I just decided to go to Home Depot and make my own. All right, so I'm starting to put the things down in the rack unit here. Excuse the mess of my apartment. I'm moving soon, so everything's kind of all over the place, but I'm just gonna show you what I'm doing here. A big thing that has really helped me out with putting in rack units like this is to lower them in. Put your gear on its back like this and just lower things in, then screw them in. There's really no reason to try to be holding things up while you're screwing them in if you can just lay it down. So work smarter, not harder. The second piece that's going in is our interface. Just lower it in, and it's already where you want it to be. And I'm just hand tightening the screws for right now. I will, fully get them in once everything's in here, just to make sure that it all fits correctly. And the third piece, the Focusrite. So again, sink it in. This is what I like about rack gear, is that it's so maneuverable. It is so flexible. It can go in my desk, it can be at home, and it can leave the studio just as easily. And you can kind of build out a little custom unit for whatever you're working on. And here is our mobile recording rig. Probably going to be heavy. But essentially it's just power, interface, more inputs. That's it. Okay, I have a hat on now. Due to some structural support reasons within the box and also some ill-fitting screws, I moved things around a little bit. Now the order, and I'll show you from the front, is this is a 4-space rack unit. So we have our power at the top, an empty space in the middle, then the PreSonus, the interface, and then the ADAT expander interface is down on the bottom, just so it can kind of sit against the bottom because it is the largest and heaviest of these rack units, and I just don't want it to have to be supported in the air above anything else. It's just, sometimes you got to move things around. This is what it all looks like in the back. So I'm going to wire it up. We'll get power plugged in at the top, and then we will plug in things between the interfaces. This is my ADAT cable. This is what's going to be sending audio from the Focusrite up into the PreSonus. So we take our optical out from the Focusrite, and we go into our first optical in the PreSonus. The PreSonus has options for more optical ins. We are only using the one, so we don't have to worry about that. Look at that. Alright, so everything turns on. So it works. So this is the mobile rig. This is pretty much what it's gonna look like when I go to record. Nothing too crazy. Just power and inputs and outputs. Power, I/O, computer. It's that easy. I have a Pro Tools session pre-set up for this, which is just drums, drum bus, bass, bass bus, and guitars, inputs for each of them, and then a blended aux input for each of the double mics for the guitars. And that's kind of the rig, man. That's it. They are gonna have speakers for me there, and we're gonna use this and record. Alright, so that was the process of me building my little remote recording rig here. It's nothing too complicated. It's really just power and 16 inputs. 8 from the regular one, 8 from the expander. Had to do a little bit of maneuvering as far as, I had a way that I thought it was going to sit in this rack due to only having so many screws that truly fit those rack rails. I had to maneuver things just for, structural integrity, just to make sure nothing heavy was getting any strain from the racks or on the way it was positioned on the rack, which is fine. That's something you go through. Just power on top, inputs, and outputs as well. The power works, everything turns on, everything sees each other, aside from the one Firewire to Thunderbolt interface that I'm waiting on, that is hopefully arriving tonight. Worst case, I end up using the Behringer expander, which is, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. It still gets the job done. On top of that, I'm just packing up a bunch of microphones for tomorrow and hoping for the best, planning for the worst, planning for everything I can possibly think of. Just excited to work, excited to make some music, help people make a record, and do some recording. It's what I love to do. Obviously that's why I have all this gear in this channel. If there's any other questions you have about the process I'm going through for this or how I'm recording it or anything like that, let me know in the comments. I will also put a link to the video I shot for these guys last time if you want to get a sense of the kind of music that this is going to be for. Wish me luck, and have a good week. I'll see you next time.